go. So yeah, one of the ladies from our this workshop, abundance workshop that I'm in, actually you met her. That is Susie. Remember the lady from Hong
Yes,
Kong?
yes,
So she
yes.
works with frequency technologies, and we're exchanging an astrology reading also for treatment, like a biofeedback. And so
Yes.
she started shooting me yesterday some recordings. There are frequency recordings, so 28 hertz, and some specifically made up on my vibration, I would say, because she takes an imprint from the of the aura, and she reads out from my voice. So you just give her the
Oh my,
voice.
I love that.
Yeah. So I fell asleep with a lot of these tunes. So maybe that's rejuvenating. So you should try that out.
I'm gonna ask you for her contact information. Maybe you can send it to me because I'm really interested in frequency medicine. Because I was telling my husband today that like he has trouble with his feet. Like he's a Capricorn, so he's very kind of like everything is joints and bones and this and that. And like,
Mm.
so I said, you married a very good witch, right? So he starts laughing. And I said, I can put Reiki into the water where you soak your feet, and I'll put essential myrrh oils. And he's like, you will? And I said, yes.
Um,
But for a man to accept like different modalities sometimes can be challenging, right?
I know it's just, I think we're at the break point with that. So many people that even from industries that you would not expect, like technicians or so, they do open an eye and an ear to these kind of new modalities, and they're not new. That's the thing. There's
Exactly.
and here's Susie. How cool is that? So she's
Oh,
coming.
nice.
And so yeah, that's what we see. And I think, I mean, the frequency is just the new healing modality. And I work also with patches that you put on
Yes.
acupuncture points, and
Yes.
they vibrate based on the acupuncture points, and they unblock blockages in the meridians in our
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Great stuff, really.
It is really good. And then you're playing with the auric field, right? You're playing with
Right?
any kind of energetic blocks. And I love that because I think we've reached a point, like you said, people are like, isn't there more to health than this,
True.
right?
Uh-huh.
Isn't there more?
Exactly. And then that brings us into the astrology. That's vibration also. It's like really the interactive communications between the planets that have different vibrations. I have a friend who actually has a wind chime, huge wind chime that is attuned to Neptune. So that's the
Oh,
dreamer planet and a very spiritual planet. So
mhm.
that definitely um that I think there is so much future to it, and it has been there. So now we are rediscovering all this.
Yes, and like it's funny you say that too. Well, not so funny because you're very in tune with what we always talk about and we give each other soul food is like we have all the tools we need in humanity. We actually have been given everything.
Hmm.
It's just now we have to build bridges towards that because right now people I think are missing that and they're thinking, well, is this it? Is this what it's all about? So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting now that you have to build bridges towards a newer way of thinking, a more conscious way of thinking of how to deal, especially with wellness.
Yes, and I think even that it is, I would probably say it like rediscovering it, because I think that we have purposely trained away from all the vibration and living with the cycles of the planets and all this, because it is so powerful, and just to keep
Yeah.
it small and controllable, that this has been taken away from us. And I mean, plant medicine, what do you say? Like when you give your husband a foot bath, it's really doing something. And like the frequencies that, hello, Susie, by the way,
Hello,
I got
Susie.
from her yesterday.
Welcome.
Good morning. Yeah, for you, for you both, it's midday time already. So it's
It's
1:30,
midday.
right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, very powerful. And yeah, I think it's really about rediscovering and all this, and the cycles, which is also a vibration. It's like wave time. I mean, we know that time is not necessarily what we have been told that it is. It's not you okay, you have a past because you remember it, but it is like a continuous, like a spiraling thing. That's why things come back to us in life if we don't get
Exactly.
our message and we are dating the wrong type of guys, and we will
Yes.
always be ending up with a similar relationship just until we get the aha moment and make a change by vibrating different energies out,
Yes.
think differently.
Yes. So, so, so important. So wise. So,
Yeah.
so wise. Very well said.
So, and then we wanted to bring this into the family sphere, the astrology, our little talk here. That means
Yes.
family, marriage, and children. You just gave the best example with when you said about your husband that he has issues, so you're taking care of it because you have really natural, innate knowledge how to deal with it without popping a pill or
Right.
um, going to a doctor most of the time, unless you have like a holistic practitioner or so. I think that they are very much into the pharmaceuticals because they also get commissions oftentimes. So it's
Yes.
remembering all our like the good witchcraft.
It is, and you say something so like you put two words together which are very kind of opposite, good witchcraft. And I mean, historically, we know that witches were persecuted for all of their knowledge, right?
Right.
They were burned at the stake. Why? Because of their knowledge was considered a threat to the mind, to the egoistic mind as well.
Mm.
But modern day witches have this innate ability to not only read energy, to be intuitive, to reclaim divine feminine
Right, right,
power, but then they use that in a very practical way because we still live here on earth, right?
right.
You can't
That's a good
you
point.
can live here, but you don't have to be of here, right?
Yeah,
Which is that.
that is very true. Yes. And I think also because when it happened, when all the witches were persecuted and all this, it was in a very male, masculine dominated time. So how
Yes.
can a woman come and bring all this power and be so powerful and be a healer and all this? That is just not working. So they had to find a way to cancel them, basically.
Yes, and I think now the time is now and I think all women, especially men too, we can't give them a bad rap all the time because it's not they're part of the larger collective of male consciousness as well, like how they vibrate and what they think about how they've been conditioned as children as well. You have this ability, um, people have this innate ability to heal. We can
Right.
do it,
That is so
right?
true. Yes, yes, yes. And plus, I mean, wherever you go, whether it's like in the old days when we were young and we were going out, if somebody had like a breakup in the friendship, when we were teenagers and they were sad. So it's the innate drive that you uplift that friend because that is radiating into the whole room, into the whole event. That's what we and I mean, even if we take it higher to the world stage right now with all the like the wars and some media or whoever wants to say like you have to be against someone. No, we don't. We can be for peace and we can just be for having people just be themselves and accept them and just live and let live.
Yes.
That's really where we have to come out of this wanting to be pressed into some kind of like a yeah pressure point where we have to make a decision in terms of deciding taking a side, and that is what is where we are. I think a lot of us come out of this and say like no, we don't have to. We have to. We just we can just follow good characteristics and good what is that word I'm looking for, like ethics, and just live
Ethics.
ethically and support each other
Yes,
and
I
that's
agree.
exactly on a world stage, but then it starts in the family, really, in the relationship and the parents. How do they interact and what do they give to the kids? And that is where astrology, I think, is the best tool, really, that is helping people that are also very like practical and mental, because you know, you are a Reiki practitioner, so, and a master, not a Reiki practitioner. You're a Reiki master, and Ahava, he learned all this, you know, about the energies, and but maybe some of your clients are more like they're more brainy, and
Yes.
there it's a good meeting point to see, like, to say like, okay, so here's physical explanations for things, and it makes it more tangible.
Yes. It's funny, you were talking about this. There was a Virgo full moon over the weekend,
Right.
and my son said to me yesterday morning, and the moon was obviously waning a little bit yesterday, but I was very aware of it because I was in a big frowning mode on Saturday because everything, all this extension of this lunar energy was like, I was like, why am I so cranky? Usually I'm not cranky, but I
Yeah.
am human, right? And nothing happened. It's just I was really, really feeling heavy.
Mm.
My son said, I'm, and he's also a Virgo as well, like myself, and so I understand him really well in a sense of what do Virgos need, what do they prefer,
Yeah.
and I don't paint all of us in the same brush. I can't say that because it depends on if you have other rising signs
Right.
in your
Exactly. And
chart.
that's, yeah,
But but
so
but
right.
that's
This
what
is
I.
what we always say, that you cannot put everyone in the same drawer, but yes, there are certain alchemical characteristics that are like a red line that go through this sign. And when you just said, like, with the full moon, or the, yeah, it was full moon, so these things can affect people, and then you, as you described, out of the blue, you feel kind of like, I don't know, moody, or some feeling comes over you, and you don't, if you know, okay, so there's this going on, and like, if we have a full moon, or we have an eclipse, or we have moon is in a, let's say, Aries, you know, the fighting spirit, and then people are really like feisty, and you know, like,
Yes,
now you know why they are that way. And if you take it to a family, then you know exactly that you don't take things personal, and you know that you have the freedom to say, like, I don't own this. It's just, it is in the air, and I will just notice it, and it's not mine. That helps, I
yes.
think, a lot.
I think too, I do believe, however, when you are noticing things, especially as if you are a woman, and then of course I always say that women are we're feeling beings, right? We're always
Mm.
feeling stuff, and we're more in tune to either frequencies around us, or how somebody's feeling, or what is happening if you have children, what's happening with your child. And we always forget that that informs our way of nurturing as well.
Oh, yes.
And so when as an example, when I notice something's happening with my son, and Virgos traditionally are overthinkers, and he's exactly that.
Mm.
And I said, are you overthinking it? And then he also tells me, he's like, Mommy, are you overthinking it?
This
Right?
is so good.
He feeds me the same medicine, and I feed him the same medicine.
Yeah.
But he's built this awareness about how he's thinking about a particular um, problem, and looping around it instead of finding a solution, or
Yes.
maybe just taking a step back. But the point is that when you know the kind of the traditional astrological, the implications around family members, around
Mm.
children, about of your colleagues, this will
Yeah.
soften and inform relationships, and form
Totally.
a
Yes.
basis for empathy, form
Hmm.
a basis for compassionate listening, all these
So
kind of
true.
softer skills, so that you can inform. Now, this is only one way that you can
Yeah.
inform a relationship. But I think because we love talking about astrology, it's our soul food in this lifetime.
Yeah. I was like really
I think
excited.
it's I think it's so important
Yeah.
to understand where people are coming from, and
Yeah.
not absorbing, not just
Right.
observing, but not absorbing, which
And
is
not
a
hoping
very
that
big
they
that.
change for us, that we ask, like, okay, so can you please change for us? It will make me happy. No, because an apple seed will not grow pears. And that is, I mean, just the birth chart itself can explain so much. And where the, like, even when you talked about the elements, not even looking at the planetary placements in the chart, but even looking at how many planets are in water signs. If you have a lot of water, then you are a feeling person, and then you shouldn't be expected to be like really outgoing and guerrilla style, or like a doer and very courageous and all this. Then you're probably rather more introverted and more the caring person. And then, so that is the basic blueprint, if you want. But then you can take it to daily life. So let's say you're planning something, you're planning, I don't know, like a big party or so. In the same that you don't, like, rain is coming up on the horizon, then you don't have a barbecue party outside. And the same also when you are planning a vacation. So yeah, there are certain times. Jupiter is like the fun planet, for example. So you make sure that Jupiter is probably not retrograde, or no aggressive influences. For example, on Valentine's Day, we had Mars had
Yes.
an impact that was more like a more go get, and it's not the
Yes.
cozy and romantic. So when you have that, then then you don't plan a romantic getaway when there is more Martian energies in the air. And also when it gets to like when the kids get to, like when they voice, oh, I want to be a, I don't know, fireworker or whatever. So you look at the chart of the child also, and when they are totally artistic, then you probably shouldn't force them to become a lawyer,
Yeah, exactly. And this is very important. This, I think, informs and also will soften parenting practices as well, right? Because if
Mm,
you're aware, even if I would pull in, if you allow me to pull in a bit of numerology, everybody has their life path number, which
right.
also informs,
Hmm.
based on that particular number where that child perhaps should be aiming towards. Now,
Hmm.
this is very counterproductive to South Asian families. I was actually very lucky. My parents are are very supportive of my choices. You know, being a teacher, they were guiding me, and so they were very supportive. But other families, traditionally, they will, you must become a
Yeah.
dentist, you must become a doctor, you must become a lawyer, you must become an accountant.
Mm,
And because they are looking for status, they are looking
right.
for, they
It's
want their child to
Capricorn.
become established, right? They want their child to be um, well deserving, and also preparing them for marriage. Now, I'm talking
Mm,
generally speaking in South Asian families, so I'm not painting every family unit with the same brush, but sometimes I think we have to take a step back and really look at the child and say, okay, where's their passions lies,
that's so true.
and it's so important, right? Depending on what their life path number is, what their risings are, what their interests are, and
Mhm.
then molding your parenting around that instead of forcing the parenting.
Right.
Forcing will cause breaks in the relationship,
Right. And
which
even
can
saying
always
like,
be fixed. But
exactly, like even saying like, we will disown you if you don't do this. And I can see
yeah,
the desperation, maybe if there's like a, your dad is I don't know, mechanic or so, and he has an own shop. So of course he wants to pass it on to the son. But if the son is I don't know, feels like being a tour guide and jetting around in the world, then it's not a good match. Then you better sell it off, or maybe there's somebody else in the family. So that's definitely um super important, because you can just break a character, and the soul comes also with the life task. So we look at the
yes,
North Node, where we are best, like what's the best avenue, what life area, so what house, and what sign is it in which form can we express ourselves to find fulfillment.
wow, so powerful. But I wanted to pull in Susie. If Susie, we are you're such a good listener, but please jump in when you would like, and join us in the conversation. What do you think about having our parenting being informed with astrology? What do you think about all of this?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Sometimes I have to fix my mic. Yeah, coming from an Asian family, I totally get what you just said about you have to become this or that. Uh, it's not just about maybe like that status, but it's also about the finances, right? Because the parents want us to be financially like very well off. And then the other part too is I understand the part about marriage, because as a female Asian, right, it was about, okay, when are you going to get married? Actually, for all the kids, when are you going to get married? When are you going to produce those grandkids?
Yeah, I think in India also they are really particular about it, and they look at the Avamsha chart, and it's super important there who you
Yes.
partner
And I
with.
mean, and those paradigms are shifting because let's be honest, in especially in Asian cultures, there is astrology. You know, this year is the year of the dragon in Asian culture, and then in Indian astrology, when two kids are wanting to get married, they look at their birth charts and they look at their signs, like, and they'll
Absolutely.
say, no, a Gemini shouldn't marry a Scorpio, for example, right? And then you can't say shouldn't, but then they'll go to the astrologer and say, should they be a match? And the astrologer says no. And so, all of this astrology stuff, there's this undercurrent of it shouldn't be considered fear. And we've talked about this in other episodes. This is something that can inform and stretch into many facets of your life, whether
Mhm.
it is in parenting, matchmaking, the way you relate to your colleagues, the way you conduct yourself, and also finding deep understanding with yourself, depending on which month you were born in.
Exactly. And when you mentioned like matchmaking, there was I thought also like maybe it would make sense to matchmake, but it would be so superficial because yes, you have the elements. So if you are in a trine with I'm in my case, I'm a Gemini sun, and with Libra and Aquarius, there is a trine, but there may be so many other factors going in that does not make a match. And definitely, I underline what you say, or subscribe to what you say, is when the fatalistic use of astrology and saying like you have to really make this connection, you have to marry that person because we want our families to fuse, then I mean you're signing these two people up for unhappiness, and they will probably sidestep in their marriage. It's so counterproductive and forceful, like when you have these really strict church dogmas that are just not lightly offered, as you say. Like if we just lightly offer it to make it smoother, if you look at synastry, that is when you take two charts, and it can be a pair, a couple, or it can be son and mother, it can be a work colleague. So you look at the two charts and you kind of like you overlap them and you see where are overlappings and are there any trigger points. Okay, they're
So
trigger points, we like
beautiful.
each other, so we work out the trigger points. It's so easy, and there are always ways to find like a compromise. And if it does not work, then okay, then you don't have to even find a compromise. Then you say bye bye, and then there's the next one.
I love that. What can you repeat that word again?
Synastry. There's synastry.
Synastry.
And that is
Wow.
when you look at the energies and with their ascendant, so the one ascendant with the other ascendant. And if you have nodal connections, the nodes and the luminaries, which is sun and moon, if there is a connection, there's a trine or conjunction, so they do communicate, then then you guys are up to something. Then usually it's a karmic connection. And the other thing is, let's say you are married already or you have a serious relationship, that's a composite. So then you're taking the two midpoints of each chart, and that midpoint makes a new chart of the, if you want, like the venture, like the enterprise. Let's say you're creating a family. It's like running a company. The goal of the company is not producing products, but raising a child as best as you can as parents. So those two techniques are really helpful also to look into.
Can you spell the word for me, Stephanie?
Yes, so the one is synastry, synastry,
Wow.
synastry chart, and then the other is the composite.
Yeah, the composite. Oh wow, synastry. What a beauty. I'm a word nerd. I love new words.
Yes. You're the language.
I
Uh,
love that. It's so fun. You know, I had I have connections in the community, and one of the moms has a Gemini child, and he's actually he's quite fond of me. He doesn't act up around me, doesn't misbehave, but apparently he does at home, which why not? All children do when they're comfortable at home, right? They'll just do whatever they can in order to push buttons, right? Right, Susie? She's like, yes, I need to have a drink and I have to accept that. But and we know, Gemini is almost like two people, right? There are
Mhm.
two people, but I I don't want to. I feel like I can't approach her with this knowledge, but I think I will the next time I see her, since we're talking about children today, because she feels that her son is bipolar.
Okay.
And I said, and I don't see that. And I never pursued the conversation with her, but something deep in me also looked towards his Gemini, like he's a true Gemini. He's a true,
All over the place.
yeah, he is, yeah, sweet. But if we're together, he's very behaved. But the point is that because she has a Gemini child, I can see like his characteristics and what he's all about, and I know the way I talk with him and whatnot. And so I think this also creates some um, synergy with children as
Yes.
well, right? Because
Yeah.
they know that someone is listening to them, and
Yes.
somebody's understanding them, not just from a physical level, but there's
That
a
is
more
so true.
deepening.
Yes. And also, I mean, you are a teacher. I'm teaching occasionally, and the thing is that even the student has an impact on us teachers sometimes. So if you can get your hand on that boy's chart, that would be interesting to cross-check it with your natal chart and see maybe you have a karmic um, connection going on. I had a friend also, and she had a friend, so that daughter came over to my friend's farm. She's a horse lady, and there the child was really behaved also. So the same what happens with you. And at home, the child, this girl, she was dancing on the mom's nose, so like redoing what she wanted and not respecting the mom, but respecting my friend. That was highly interesting. So you never know, really.
You never know. And
Mhm.
I think and I like that you say that, that these different karmic connections that come through. So it doesn't have to, when we talk about children and families, it can also be your human family who you meet on the street,
Mhm.
or like you said, how your friend met your other friend's daughter, and they may not be interacting all the time, but it creates a almost like a loving bridge for relationships,
Mhm.
for connection, for understanding as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And just sharing that and having that knowledge and teaching people how to bring that forth in their interactions can soften the world a little bit.
Yes, that is so true. And as you say, it's a learning experience for all involved, for like this other mother, my friend, and because the other mother, she could see like, okay, my friend is doing this, and then the child reacts like that. So then it's an insight that the mother was probably a little too loose with the child and not like authoritarian. I don't think it's a good word, but more firm, like a little more firm, because we have to be firmer when we have young children. Of course, they
Yeah,
get their own say at one point, but
yes, exactly. How would you say, if we say a family who's struggling, maybe they're struggling with communication, okay? And if a family is struggling with communication, and there are certain personalities and certain astrological signs that comprise that family, what would you recommend as an astrologer to
oh yeah,
improve communications in families? Because this is a big thing. Like for
yeah.
me, communication is the most underrated skill that
Hmm.
we have, but it's so vital,
I know.
right?
It's
And
yes.
when families are struggling because they're so busy, there might be multiple children
Mhm.
that need multiple things. You don't know everybody's family dynamics, and we know this word dynamics is so different, right?
Mhm.
Not better or worse, just different. How would we guide a family through who's struggling with
Healing communication
communication?
issues. I would say, yeah, first of all, role play. So have fun with it, but then everybody must be open and say like, hey, come on, let's look at this tool called astrology, and they look at the planets. So if we have a difficulty to say something to someone, like somebody is aggressive, then hey, your Mars is kind of like itching you today. So use the planets maybe, or use what the general characteristics are about the signs, so you don't so to say insult the other. Use it. I did it in a relationship, and it did work really well. The other
Wow.
thing is it is because it's depersonalizing. So the other person doesn't feel attacked. And even with my mom, who's not the easiest person to be around or to get along with and communicate with, you have to, okay, first see who is the other person. That is probably a good starting point, and wanting to know. So maybe get a chart for each of the members involved, given that they are old enough, but looking at the meanings and the general characteristics and meanings of the planets and signs, and looking, okay, so where is Mercury? Because Mercury is it's all about the exchange of data in the head and feelings and information exchange. And that is one thing. And the other tip, what I would give families that are struggling, use writing, use other ways of communicating, because I'm really good at writing. For me, like doing like podcasts now, it's something totally new, and I've not been the most, like, I'm not calling like me first when it gets to stepping up and talking in front of people. So some people are better with even drawing a picture, drawing, like the artist person that is kind of like, okay, so here's an example. I was quarreling with my boyfriend once, and I was just drawing a porcupine, because he was so pointy and he was poking, and so but I draw him a smile on the face, and he was grinning, so he understood how I see him. So just doing this, that could be helpful, especially with little children,
Yeah.
listening to them to begin with, and not saying like, I'm the parent, you have to, like, what I say is law. So it's really, yeah, listening is super important also, because a lot of people, they like Sages. I don't want to say anything against Sages, love them, but sometimes they do like to speak more than they listen. So it is not helpful at all. So it has to be in and out, so that when all in the family would keep those basic factors in mind, and then using writing, acting, drawing, sending like emojis.
So beautiful. Like, I look at all the strategies, and these are not expensive things that, how people, I mean, some families might need a family therapist, right? And we can't discount those external tools either.
Right.
But what you've explained is very simple and practical ways families can communicate with each other in busy times as well, and being aware of what the love language is in that particular
Mm.
household. And we've talked about, love languages are you a service type of love? Are you a gift type of love? You can communicate without actually talking, which you've
So
described. You can
yes.
draw, you
uh,
can role play, you can talk. I know uh, my friend, she puts sticky notes in her household, and she puts um, uh, psalms from the Bible around the house.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so she'll just put it on a sticky note, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
And all of her families read. Her family obviously
That
reads.
brings,
She just puts that,
yeah.
when they're brushing their teeth, they can read it, and then that's fine.
Yes, that brings up another idea, like song and music, because I mean, when you said
Right,
psalms, it sounds so similar to songs, and that is
songs.
also a good thing, like really just putting up songs. even if you write the title on a sticky note somewhere or so, because that is also vibration. Music is vibration, and Susie knows very well about that. That is
Yes.
definitely making a change how we vibrate out, and whether it's the voice or singing and having fun with it, taking it lighter. It's not about really, even if there is a stressful aspect to the way how we communicate with a Mercurian, I don't know, square to Mars or so, then we can still, as long as we are, when we sometimes rush out, Mars is fast and can be bold and can be like saying things that maybe be cutting, the word may be cutting, but if we know it, we can train ourselves and reel ourselves in and, okay, I breathe before I say it, because usually I say it quickly, and now I work on myself. So everybody needs to be honest enough with themselves in a family setting, especially in a family, because you cannot easily run away. Yeah, you can pack your luggage and go and say, like, I'm out of here. But this would not be fulfilling your purpose. I think that's not why you are in a family, because we have
Yes.
to kind of deal with these people on the long run. Even when parents separate, the kids are still there, and even when they are way adult and they're like 50 or whatever, then you still have a relationship with your child. So it's really learning about how to soften the edges.
Yes, I agree. And Susie, did you have any insights in terms of astrology and communications and I know being of an Asian background as well, I bring that up because there's also there's the astrology, if you have an ox in the house, or you have the rabbit, or you have a dragon in the house. Do you have any insights that you could share in terms of like how families can communicate, knowing a little bit of the background of their Chinese zodiac?
Um, I wouldn't necessarily say with Chinese zodiac, although I do have a question in regards to that. So, because I've done energy work, energy healing, uh, what I've noticed have come up for me and others is the ancestral energy is sometimes in the way. And so and then I morphed that into a question, because what about ancestral astrological influence,
Yes, that is
right?
a very good
Wow.
point. Yes.
That can still
Wow.
be there in the family
Mhm.
at that astrological level. And how
Yes.
do we handle
Yes,
that?
I can sing a song about that also. It is definitely there. We find it in which is called the Imum Coeli. So that is one point in the chart. So you think of it as the pizza pie that is divided in 12 points. And then you have probably a lot of people have heard of the ascendant already. And on the opposite, we have the descendant. And then we have a vertical axis also. This is the southern point. So basically it's the bottom part of the wheel. And then we have the upper part of the wheel, which is the career part. So now we look at the Imum Coeli at the very bottom part of the chart, and that sign will tell us about our ancestry, lineage, and where we are coming from and what kind of baggage we are bringing in. That is super important. And I think once we consciously make peace with that and we just acknowledge it is there, and we choose to say it is you ancestors, this was your task in life, but we cannot we cannot continue this burden anymore, because there is a reason why we are incarnating in a new generation. So we have other tasks. We cannot put all the previous tasks on. It would not make sense. And only knowing this, that we know we have to say lovingly, we can line them up in our mind behind us, the lineage men and the women, and we say lovingly, it is good, thank you for what you gave us, and it's so important that we have what we learned from our ancestors. But then the burden is not meant to be carried on. It's the nature wants to evolve, so we cannot hang on to baggage in the past, and that has to only be made conscious in a conscious state.
Wow, that's so interesting, and like a really a big Susie, thank you for bringing that up. Like
Yeah, good question.
um, the ancestral energy is and no astrological sign would be immune to that, right? Because we're carrying
Exactly.
lineage um, from generations and generations. And I do need to say, though, but I believe uh, families do have cycle breakers, and the black sheep of the family, no matter which astrological sign that might be, there are certain members of families that do that. And so that they change the trajectory of their family and leave that baggage behind. I don't know, and we can't say one astrological sign would do a better job than the other. I think sometimes it's just written
Yes.
based on their chart and what's
Probably,
there.
yes. Yeah, probably. I
Yeah.
think that's a good point there. And I like the word when you said circuit breaker. I consider myself one. I don't have own children. My brother doesn't have either. So that
Mm.
I would say fits. And I think that Aquarius is a very rebellious sign, even though it's fixed. And you would think like fixity wants to hang on to the status quo, but definitely anyone who has strong Uranus, like my son is in the Uranus declinate, even though I'm Gemini. And then we can tell if we look back to our school days, did we blend in or did we speak up and question authority? So that's always when you can tell, or you have a very strong Uranus in I don't know, like in the 10th house, which is really elevated, it's really high. And the 10th house is where we want to leave a dent in the world. So that those people are probably circuit breakers. I so love that word.
You like that, right? It just break.
Yes.
Well, because I think essentially, I mean, the idea of astrology is, and we've talked about this very early on, if you just take the woo-woo out of it, right? That, oh, it's
Mhm.
something that's out there. It's not out there. It is something that is very practical, something that can be carried
Mhm.
forward as another tool, not
Mhm.
only for uh, circuit breaking and the black sheep, um, and also the energies. Like, and when you
Yeah.
look at somebody's energy, their auras, everything can be informed because we're looking at astrology. Can also look at the energy body. Would you agree
Right.
with?
That is so true. And you just said the golden word again, energy body, because in astrology, and I think we did this already when we looked at the astrology, the Aries is the head, Taurus is the throat, Gemini is the lungs. So every
Mm,
sign reflects in the human body. So we do carry
yes,
it. And it's also like when you look at the moon, people that say like, oh, it's woo-woo, the astrology. But if you look, the moon has such an impact on the tides of the ocean. And
yes,
and we are so much water. So the moon affects our mood and our feelings and emotions, plus the cycle of the moon. For example, if you want to become pregnant and let's say you want to start a family, because you have the 28 day cycle for the woman, and there are days always in between the cycles that you are the most fertile. So if you don't want to be pregnant, you just be careful in those, I think it's like 10 days or so, couple of days. And if you want to be pregnant, then you exactly come together and procreate in those days. That's so easy. And the other thing, going back to the circuit breaker, if I sometimes when we really buy into our family and they say like, oh, you should marry that person or you should do that job and you should stay here or live there or whatever. And when Uranus opposes our birth Uranus, it's the so-called midlife crisis. That's when people like turn around and like, am I happy where I live? Am I happy in my job and in this marriage? And that's a lot of times when people move across country, they get divorced, they remarry, they start a complete different career.
yes. And the idea of it, if people understood a little bit more about their own being in the astrological sense and their own energetic around that surround themselves, they would be
Mm.
able to better inform their decisions, right? It affects
Oh, yes.
decision making,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
Even in a family, when you have
Yeah.
multiple people trying to,
Yeah.
you're together in a space and you're doing this. But if
Oh,
you
yes.
understand the energetics of the
Yeah.
person, what you observe, not of what you're absorbing, but just observing what they're all about, and
Mm.
then understanding. And I think one of the more practical examples is how I look at my son and I remember when as he's growing up, I remember him and I tell him stories as what he did as a child. And I will continue that knowledge because I can see he has certain tendencies towards certain things. And even though as they get older, sometimes you forget, but I use that as a parenting piece because he's a creative child, he's a Virgo, he has a life path, a certain life path number. And this helps the child to flourish instead of be completely suffocated by the expectations that are set not perhaps by ancestry, by family dynamics, by whatever.
Society.
However, it's by society as well, because we know that society is well, hopefully we're shifting towards a better way,
Yes.
which I
Yeah,
think
I
we
think
are.
I can
That's why
feel it already. Yes, yes.
I
Because
can
that
feel
is
that.
so exactly. That was the Earth, you know, how long have we been in Earth? And now this was the first, you know, we have the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, and the last one in 2020 was then the first that started in the air sign of Aquarius. So it's fast, it's mind, and it's social also, it's brotherhood. So there's a definite it's slower because it's on such a big scale. That's why, I mean, Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius for 20 years, so it's a long time, and it takes time to trickle through and change all the thinking patterns and behaviors that we have been trained into in the
true.
earth, heavy earth and hierarchical earth epoch, if you want. So that's definitely changing. Thank God.
I know, I think so. And when you have and build that awareness around yourself and around, and I know Susie, you're also with energy medicine as well. You understand that everything is energy. This is not new knowledge, right? Everything is energy. So, and how do we harness that for a greater good, not only with our families? How do you harness that with and as a well-being piece for children as well, how they're feeling, how they're validated in their household instead of, and I know growing up, certain households were like the kids were seen, not heard type of parenting styles, right? And I don't think the earth has room for that right now. I think we need people who think, we need people to see and to feel and
Yeah.
to understand what is happening around them and build that awareness of what is working for them, and to feel their way through not the cage of the mind, but
Right.
also from the heart
Exactly.
space, right?
The times of assisted thinking are over, like through government.
Right, exactly. You know,
Yeah.
it's so important, you know, and I think, you know, one day I'm hoping, you know, that they would teach astrology in a classroom, you know, just to
Yeah,
have
they
it.
did. They did in the past. I mean, universities were teaching
I
it, and I
remember.
think still at Oxford and one university in London or in England still has that as a subject to study. I think also if it would just help people to, like, with planning, with understanding like the essence of people, their life path, looking at the North Node, and even if there's even if there's one person with a deep desire to understand the rest in the family, they can take their chart, because the fifth house can tell us a lot about our children. It's about it's the house of
Wow.
the children, and also the in-laws. Like, so, for example, my sister-in-law is in my ninth house because my brother is the third house. So I can find information about my brother in my third house, what is transiting there. And she would be in the ninth house. It's the opposite house of his first house. So it's, I hope I don't make anyone dizzy here right now, but it's called Derivate Houses. It's a technique where you just look at your own chart and you have a secondary view of this.
Wow, that is so deep. So derivate houses, meaning so the sense of that is what? That
So
this
you
is
look at
how
your
they,
chart. You look at your
yes,
chart, and let's say you're talking about your sister. Yeah, I don't know, sister. I use your son. So you're talking about your son. So whatever your fifth house looks like, that means what planets are transiting there, but even by birth, what planets are placed natally in your fifth house. How are
wow,
they doing? Do they have stressful impacts, aspects, stressful connections with other planets? Do they have like
wow,
helpful, like a trine to Jupiter, to whatever planet is in the fifth house? So that all that can inform us. And so when you look at your sun, the fifth house will become his first house. So if you want to look at
wow.
even like his mind or so, so your fifth house is his first house. So you go 1, 2, 3. So your seventh house is his third house. So
Oh,
there you
wow,
can tell about the mind of your son. So it's a little
wow.
complicated, but it's not so complicated in the end if you just get the hang of it.
Wow, and that's so beautiful because when they say, when you hear it in popular culture, like my kids are driving me crazy, or I don't understand my child, or my child is not
Mm,
listening to me. There's this underlying current of, houses
mhm.
happening. And
Yes.
okay, so a mother doesn't, maybe an aunt, a mother, whoever, a grandmother, whoever you are not going to sit down and do derivate houses every day, but
Oh,
that can be another, it could
yeah.
be another toolkit
Right.
for you
Yeah.
to help support the
Yeah.
energetics of your relationships, right?
Absolutely. And
How
especially if you're dealing
beautiful.
with a client in the moment and you don't have the client and the sister-in-law or the client and the son or whatever. So you can you can get a quick understanding of what the children's situation looks like for this client. That's helpful.
Wow.
However, I think the most mileage we get out of looking at the synastry charts, because then you have more details and nuances. Then you have both charts and how you interact. Is there like stress between mother and child? Is there stress maybe or supportive? Is there strength? Often when you have strong mother connections, the moon is the mother because it's the Cancer is the caring sign that's related to the stomach in the human body. And so those planets that are specifically related to mothership, they can tell a lot about how we are parenting and like what are.
Wow. Wow. I had a question for you, going back to a relationships or partners, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. If you are not getting along in that partnership, how, and again, if if there's no shame in divorce, if that is something that has to happen, then if that's part of your journey, please, there's no judgment in that way. But if you are not getting along and you continue to not get along because, for example, perhaps your mother and father are fire signs, both of them,
Mhm.
and they are not getting along well, what is a solution for, on the astrological level, how can you best support that relationship? So we've talked about derivates, the synastry, doing composites. Is there anything else that, like, a man and woman, a woman man,
Hmm.
woman
Well, there
woman,
I
man
would
man?
the best I can think of. So I couldn't think of an astrological technique per se, but I would always say if there's like an overload of fire, find outlets. Find outlets, and maybe
Wow,
the chart can say like, okay, maybe there is a certain outlet. Let's say fire. Let's say Sagittarius, long distance travel, others exploring other cultures, religion, philosophy, all those things.
wow,
And if it's very Aries oriented, then like athletic exercise, like a real good squash game, that gets a lot of steam out. And then
wow,
we go with a totally different approach towards our partner, knowing even two fires. I mean, let's say one is a Sag, the other is an Aries, for to stick with
Ooh,
this example.
wow. Fireworks.
Yes, fireworks, exactly. But it can be so productive. You can like
Yeah.
really excel with that as long as you know about it and you don't butt head. If you don't butt head and you find creative outlets for that. And
Wow,
to
so
water
beautiful.
signs, then most of the time, I think when you have these extremes, whether it's water or too earthy, like always pragmatic and only thinking in the practical, then you will have to find other ways of emotional input. If the couple doesn't have it, usually, I mean, they will have, for example, your ascendant will be balanced with the descendant. Oftentimes,
Wow.
the descendant is the partner. It's described by the qualities of the partner. So
Wow.
say that is a fire sign on your descendant. So you're drawing in fiery people. They like that even. And of course, that's why you are attracted to it. And then I think if we just find healthy outlets, then we don't fall into this trap of using it in a destructive way and getting it itchy and edgy and all this.
This is something so beautiful that you're saying, and you're finding productive outlets. And how beautiful is that, especially when you are building an awareness and becoming fully embodied, especially as
Mm,
women. What is feeding you? Because
mm,
you may not be able to get it from your partner at every given moment, but what is feeding you? What are your outlets? What is it that you actually need in order to feed yourself so that
mm,
the relationship is balanced for the day? Do you need to take space? Do you need
mm.
to go for a walk? Do you need to play a squash game? All
Yeah,
of these things are simple and practical ways. And
yeah.
and even I know people are very busy these days, and this is a function of our technology, our where the planets, especially the Aquarius. When I remember sending an email to you, and we were both in agreement that the energy was just whoosh, like everything was just lifting off. You can feel that, right?
Yes, yes.
So you have to work within the time frames that you
Oh,
have,
this is so well said. This is so
right?
well
Like
said.
you can't go and spend 8 hours playing squash, right? I mean,
No,
if you want,
exactly.
if you can, then you can. But no,
Uh-huh.
I not the average person can't do
Yeah,
that,
but
right?
it's the
I
thing
can't even hit a
also.
squash ball.
Yes, if you
I
just feed
don't
that that urge in the moment, I think that is already healing it in the way the imbalance is being healed once you feed it. Eat something spicy. I mean, find something where you do your fire. So that is it
Yeah,
could be that easy also because then you really address that heat that is in, or do some like really good gardening, like really heavy or lifting heavy things that you always wanted to do, arrange something. That's definitely um important. And what you just said is golden. Like know what the energy is like right now, the quality of time, and then don't go against it because, like, uh let's say like a Mercury retrograde or some like okay, so you want to race ahead and you're waiting for this email to come back and you're waiting for the reply. It is so difficult to wait. And but then you just realize, okay, so right now it is not a good time to push forward a decision that is likely to be changed when Mercury turns direct again. So
right.
it's something that we have to reasonably see, okay, what's going on right now. Right now all planets go forward, so we have I think two of the asteroids are backward, but everyone and their dog is going forward in the cosmos, so it's really a lot of wind in our sail. So now is the time when we should act, when we should make changes and take things a step higher where we wanted to go and be courage, because it has wind and fire feeling and taste to it. So it's everything is going forward. Now is not a time to sit in the hammock and wait for things to change or so. So now we
Exactly.
should probably do something and leave plant seeds, you know.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. Susie, what do you think so far about the discussion and having knowledge of uh I know you are in energy medicine, as we've established before. How do you think how do you think of the conversation so far? And do you have any input or insights to
Question.
share?
I
Question.
find it fascinating because, well, I don't know astrology the way Stephanie does, but there are no certain things I've learned, but there are new things I learned too in terms of the relationship, you know, the house, what house you would be in compared to a loved one, right? And that would
Mm,
determine, I guess, the communications too, or the relationship. So that to
sure.
me is new, and I found that fascinating.
I know. I love that you said that. I found it fascinating too. It's like then you wonder why like why is it so difficult to be around this person, or why does this person trigger me, right? Or is
Mhm.
this person, or why does this person not like me? You know, when children say, oh, that, you know,
Mhm.
that they're not my friend, they don't like me. Yes, there's might be a physical component, but then there's obviously a house component, which I
Mm.
think simply can we could teach children that as well in a simple fashion, but just building that awareness, right, Susie?
Mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I
think, yeah,
love it.
that is very helpful that we are entering this earth, the air quality now, because that's really when we are rather capable of letting the other be, as quirky as they are. We're finding
Yeah.
more peace, because in earth it's also, it has to be structured, it has to be like that, and if you don't think like we do, then you're an outsider and we blame you. So now I think it's more freer and it's more Aquarian, and it's all about freedom
Yeah,
and being together. It's like you are still the drop, but you're in the ocean. So without a drop, there's no ocean.
I love
Yeah,
that.
it's
So
also
beautiful.
about accepting the other person too, because then you
Mm,
have a blueprint for how they operate.
yeah,
So, like when I looked at the family members close to me, like one of them, my husband, and I was like, ah, and then I realized why there were moments when he needed to be, or he was a certain way, and I just needed to respect and accept that he needed that space, and vice versa, and
yeah,
things
that's
like that. And then I would
beautiful.
explain it to him too.
Mm, that's so
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Exactly. Knowing this and then saying like, okay, I leave you your spot. My friend, my friend, my mom has a friend. She has a girls' room. So I'm talking about 76-year-old ladies or so. And she is married, but she has a girls' room where she just has, I don't know, she has a withdrawal place. Like some people have like altars or like a safe spot where we are, especially in a family. I don't relate in the recent years, not that strong anymore, because I have been living on my own for a couple of years now, probably 8 years, I think. But I mean, of course, I was in domestic settings also when I was in a relationship. But I was lucky that there was like we had a big space with a big garden, and everybody did their thing, and so that you always find moments. And then he would go out, and I met my friends and go hiking or whatever. So we always are capable of doing that and saying like, it's not against you. It's not, it doesn't have to do anything with you. I just need a little time for myself.
So beautiful. Is there any other questions or any other subject that we wanted to approach today? Because this is so exciting. We could probably talk for 48
I
days
know, I'm
straight.
always energized. And I think we're diving next time, we're going like really a deep dive into the parenting. So that will be also good.
I love that. I
Mm,
love that.
Awesome.
yeah.
Well,
Uh,
thank you. I
thank
really appreciate it. Your insights, Stephanie. You're always good for my soul. That's why we keep coming back to each
Same to
other. And
you, and same goes back to you and to Susie. Thank you so much for tuning in live.
yes,
And then
thank you,
maybe
Thank you
for
Susie.
too. Thank
so
you both.
and Roshni, do you have any like parting words and what's going on? Do you have classes or courses coming up or so?
Oh, right now I'm going to be participating in a conference for transformative leadership, and the focus is divine feminine frequency.
Nice.
And yeah, so I'll be working on that this week. and then also launching my podcast, Light Speaks, which I would love for you both to be guests if it resonates with you.
Yes,
No
okay.
pressure, even though we're live, but no pressure. But I would love for you to join me there. So those are my two main projects so far.
Yeah, great, great. Best
And
of.
what about yourself?
So yeah, I do these retreats. I have 2 retreats coming up to Mexico. One is for couples, and the other is for people that want to come get out of grief into joy. And I have a
Wow.
brand new tour to North Germany, to my home turf, and that is coming out on my website also soon. And then I'm in a very exciting workshop, like an abundance workshop. Actually, Susie is part of it. And so if people who listen to this recording want to know more about it, they can just contact me also.
Awesome. Susie, anything jumping on your end there? Anything new, exciting?
Just that I love this workshop just like Stephanie. So
Yeah.
hopefully people do reach out. It's a win-win situation. And for you, Rashni, please send the information
Thank
for
you so
your
much.
program that's coming up too.
Yes,
So
yeah, share it. And
Oh,
we
yes,
can put
thank
it
you.
under the video. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, thank you so much.
You-
And I'm wishing you both a very blessed evening and day. And we will connect again in the next month, which is months are just flying by.
I know. Mid-March, I
thank
think
you.
15th or so. So
Yes,
we will shout out. Thank
yes,
you,
thank
ladies. Was
thank
very
you.
Thank you both
nourishing
so
as always.
much.
All righty.
Grateful.
Thank
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 you,
you.
ladies.
Take care.
Bye.